This is Brandon Lee with BetFirms.com here with your 2012 Baylor football predictions. Baylor is coming off its first 10-win season since 1980. Head coach Art Briles has done a masterful job of turning this program around in just 4 years on the job. He has taken the Bears to 2 straight bowl games, including their highly entertaining 67-56 victory over Washington in the Alamo Bowl last year. Briles has proven he's a solid recruiter, but that will certainly be put to the test in 2012. While the Bears return a respectable 14 starters and 54 lettermen, they lose 5 NFL draft choices on offense alone. After relying on their offense to carry the load last year, Baylor may need its defense to shoulder most of the weight this season. Here is a team preview of the Bears, as well as my prediction on where they'll finish in the Big 12. Baylor featured one of the most prolific offenses in the country last season. They averaged a ridiculous 45.3 points and 587 total yards per game. What made this team so tough to defend was their balance, as they averaged 351 yards through the air and 236 on the ground. With only 6 starters returning on offense, it will be hard to see Baylor putting up anywhere near the gaudy numbers it did a year ago. It will be impossible to replace Heisman Trophy winner Robert Griffin III. He was selected as the 2nd overall pick in the NFL draft by the Washington Redskins after completing 72.4% of his passes for 4,293 yards and 37 touchdowns to 6 interceptions last year. He shattered all of Baylor's passing records. Senior Nick Florence takes over at quarterback, and he at least has some experience. Florence threw for 1,841 yards with 6 touchdowns and 9 interceptions from 2009 to 2010. He stepped in and went 9 of 12 for 152 yards with 2 touchdowns and a 66-42 win over Texas Tech last year after Griffin went out with a concussion in the first half. Running back Terrence Ganaway was perhaps the most underrated player on this team a year ago. He rushed for a school record 1,547 yards and 21 touchdowns before being selected in the 6th round by the New York Jets. Oregon transfer Lakesie Strunk was one of the top running back recruits in the country coming out of high school. He has 4.35 speed and will likely be the starter in 2012. The losses keep on piling up as leading receiver Kendall Wright has moved on to the NFL after being selected in the 1st round by the Tennessee Titans. However, the Bears bring back 6 of their top 7 receivers. That includes returning starters Terrence Williams, Tevin Reese, and Lanier Sampson. Briles says he recruits first on the offense and defensive lines before looking into the skill positions. He believes this year's crop is his best yet, but it may take a year or 2 for it to show. They do bring back 3 starters and 77 career starts up front, but it will be tough to match last year's production with the loss of their 2 best offensive linemen. Baylor was able to win 10 games last year in spite of a defense that yielded 37.2 points and 488 total yards per game. Those poor performances can partly be attributed to the fact that the Bears scored so quickly on offense, which meant the defense was on the field for far more possessions than most teams. Either way, this unit should be improved considering 8 starters return on this side of the ball. The Bears gave up 197 yards per game and 5.2 yards per carry on the ground last season. While they lose a pair of solid defensive tackles, junior defensive end Terrence Lloyd and senior defensive end Gary Mason are 2 returning starters who will anchor the defensive line. However, Baylor may be soft in the middle once again this season with 2 new starters at defensive tackle. Despite losing leading tackler Elliott Coffey to graduation, the Bears should be solid at linebacker considering 5 of their top 6 are back. This unit features returning starters in junior Ahmad Dixon and middle linebacker Rodney Chadwick. Sophomore middle linebacker Bryce Hager is expected to start over Chadwick, while weak side linebacker Eddie Lackey, who is a junior college transfer, was in for the spring and figures to start right away. The secondary helped Baylor force the 2nd most turnovers in the Big 12 last season. They had a whopping 18 takeaways over their final 5 regular season games. With the entire 2 deep back, this unit figures to be the strength of the team. Their starting 4 in senior Mike Hicks, junior Sam Hull, junior KJ Morton, and junior Joe Williams may be the best in the Big 12. Now for my Big 12 predictions. I have Baylor finishing in 9th place in the Big 12. I believe this is a rebuilding year for Baylor. You simply cannot replace 5 NFL draft picks in 1 year's time on offense. The Bears lose all of their best players on that side of the ball, and while there's still some talent here, I just cannot see the Bears coming anywhere close to the numbers they put up in 2011 offensively. The defense should be improved, but that's not saying much after giving up 37.2 points and 488 yards a year ago. Baylor may be even softer in the interior of their defense, and they gave up 197 yards and 5.2 yards per carry on the ground last season. I can't see this team winning a single road game as they play West Virginia, Texas, and Oklahoma away from Waco. They do have winnable home games against Kansas and Kansas State, but TCU and Oklahoma State will likely escape Waco with victories. I have Baylor finishing with no more than 2 conference wins, as Griffin III isn't here to bail them out anymore.